But I think it's pretty obvious to any reasonable person who's paying attention now that we are being purposefully divided. We are being, in my opinion, manipulated to hate one another. As Martin Luther King once said, I'm convinced men hate each other because they fear each other, and they fear each other because they don't communicate with each other, and they don't communicate with each other because they're separated from each other. So to your point about Daryl, the moment we stopped communicating with each other, and and it's weird, we're going back to a place we were in the 50s, segregation between blacks and whites. That is what led to the hate, the fear, the dread. And for decades, we managed to heal that divide. We managed to become integrated again. I grew up as a Gen Xer. Completely organic for me to live in an integrated environment, to learn, to go to school, to have a partner who's white. That's all very organic to me. And now we're going back to a place with segregated classrooms. Oh, if you're black, your doctor has to treat you a certain way. All of this segregation is only going to end up one way, Will. It's going to create more difficulties in us communicating with each other and learning from each other, and eventually we'll fear and hate each other. And what bothers me most is that, and when I say this seems intentional to me, don't ask me who's doing it. I don't think that's really relevant at this point. But it seems intentional because what it's doing is distracting us from these really huge problems I talk about in my book. And in The Illusion of Division, the biggest point I make is the elephant in the room is class. It's not race. It's not gender.
That's right.
It is not religion. It's politics. It's the gaping divide between the haves and the have-nots. And living here in Montana, a state that is, dare I say, 90% white, what struck me is the number of white people who are struggling. Now, you would expect that in Compton. You would expect that in the south side of Chicago. You would expect that in Harlem. But why is this happening? Why is there such high rate of poverty, drug addiction, and suicide in a place that's almost entirely white? That shatters the narrative. And when I moved here 13 years ago and saw that, look, it just opened my eyes. I'm like, there's so much more going on here. That we are being distracted from the class issue, because that is what could unite all Americans. In fact, not just all Americans. This isn't just an American issue. The class issue is all over the world. But if you keep people fractured and divided, they will never focus on it. So we have to resist it.
They will never.
Yeah, we've got to break these walls and let people of all races, genders, sexes, whatever, know that we're all on the same team, and we better get our acts together soon, because this divide, it's going to reach a certain point, in my opinion, where it will be very, very difficult, if not impossible, for us to bring humanity together again and move us forward in a healthy manner